Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Ganganasadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami.
Dear Seeker of Truth, welcome. This work that we are going to talk about is one of the most sacred dialogues because it happens between two enlightened beings. One is Ashtavakra, the other is King Janaka, which was Ashtavakara's disciple. So in it you will have a glimpse of the instruction of an enlightened being so that you can achieve liberation, and also the vision of how a liberated being stands, acts, what is his experience. So pay attention to these teachings, fill your heart with surrender, devotion, sacredness, because that is the way to enjoy it the most. May it blossom in your heart. May you also find liberation. Moving on, Ashtavakra Samhita, chapter 18th, verse 37, continuing on the subject of peace. So Ashtavakra continues, the ignorant person does not attain Brahman, for he desires to become it. The wise one certainly realizes the nature of the Supreme Brahman, even without desiring to do so. Well, let's say that the wise one is the one that already realized Brahman. But the ignorant person does not attain Brahman, for he desires to become it. So desiring to become it maintains duality, maintains the one-pointedness of the mind. And this creates this desire is still a restless. So what immature seekers tend to comprehend from this is that relinquishing the desire to become Brahman for liberation is a goal. But usually, that's pertaining only to the quest for liberation, because worldly life is still there. But the thing is, worldly life has to go completely. Then the purification of the mind, and eventually when you reach a high level state of silence, a very high level that you're in for it continuously, only at that point will that desire, you will see that that desire will disturb that silence and stillness. It's not that your efforts disappear, it is this one-pointedness that disappears. At this level, there's not even much effort because all the stillness has become natural. So at this level, this desire is like a wild horse being tamed. He gets tamed. Without any support and eager for the attainment of freedom, the ignorant only keep up the world. The wise cut the very root of this world, which is the source of all misery. So this eagerness to attain freedom only maintains the world for the ignorant and maintains the ignorant ignorant. Again, same subject. This eagerness is a rajasic tendency in the mind. And the call for liberation comes from the heart. It's much deeper than that. So it will maintain there. It is this rajasic tendency that needs to be, again, tamed, become sattvic. So it's not about giving up the desire for liberation. It's about taming it and making it sattvic. Instead of something for greed, removing all ego-associated greed from it. It's like the boat that was sailing and was using sails to catch the wind to go faster. But at a certain level, it will have to learn to continue to move at the same speed, but without any sails. So the wise cut the very root of this world, which is the source of all misery. Because they are wise. Wise in the sense that they have realized the self. There's a small difference from one and the other. And at this level, it is the almost there. The fool desires peace through control of the mind and so does not attain it. The wise one knows the truth and is ever of a tranquil mind. Of course, he knows the truth, mind has dissolved, he's always of a tranquil mind. So the fool desires peace through control of the mind, and that's the fool's mistake, like spiritual practices as an investment towards a specific goal. And these control of the mind, meditation, this is about purification of the mind. And it is when the mind is pure that self-realization takes place. So again, all these practices in a rajasic tendency, this is what it means, desires peace, like a belonging or a possession. This is a rajasic tendency. And it has to become sattvic. Because as long as you are looking for something, I want this, I want this, I want this, there's no silence. There's no real silence. You know that you want it. You don't need to push it. Have to learn to remain in that silent stillness, free from desires. This is what you need to learn. You have done everything, everything is in place. Now it is silence, stillness, no more worldliness. Now deepening that silence. And for that, all desires have to be relinquished. So this is not saying that it is a fool, the one who is practicing self-control and meditation to attain peace. This is not what it's saying. Saying that as long as you're desiring it, you will not get it. So when you're practicing self-control and meditation, as if that would bring you, it's like you're forcing something to go through an invisible barrier. You're pushing it. And with this attitude, that meditation and self-control will not purify your mind completely. So all those practices need to remain. It is the pushing. It has to become complete stillness. Where is self-knowledge for him whose knowledge depends on the object? The wise do not see this and that, but see the immutable self. So from here we can take, not regarding this or that, the objects, abstracting from all of them. For the vision of the self, that is out of your hand. But depending on the object, this is important. So in the beginning, as there are many attachments, many things, there's very little renunciation, you need a meditation technique, an object, to hold your mind into it so that you can come out of all those confusions. But when there's no more confusions, this object where you were holding on, that helped you move from all those attachments, then becomes something that is holding you. So at that level, nothing else is pulling you to worldliness. So now you let go of that and just remain in silence, no object. But if you haven't reached this level, immediately you will be pulled back again. So first you have to establish yourself into silence. Then you let go of the object. But understand that this is not a reasoning process. It is an explanation, yes, but as you move in a serious manner, guidance will be there. Where is control of the mind for the deluded one who strives for it? It is indeed always natural with the wise one who delights in the self. Of course, and there's not even a question of self-control because mind has dissolved. It has transcended duality. So it is established in oneness. So where is distraction possible? If it sees always the same. But the one who is striving for it doesn't have it. Doesn't have it, but he will achieve the necessary. And again, it is what's being referred, it is this Rajasic tendency. So you have renounced everything, you have done everything you could. But the majority of it was made because of greed, spiritual greed, and it's normal. So a part of you wants the fruits of the investment. And this is called the Rajasic part, the Rajasic mind. So in a sense, you're going for it, for your meditation, self-control, all these things that you are doing. There's a one-pointedness of the mind and trying to force it. It has to become stable. No, nothing of this. No wantings, no desires, no rigidities, nothing. Rigidity is very important in the majority, in the biggest part of the path. But then it disturbs quietude. So this is what's being referred. Because everything that takes you out from those worldly investments, then it becomes a problem. Not then, it takes time for this. But it has to remove everything and spend some time and then it becomes a problem. Because prior to this, if you remove the spiritual practices, self-control, meditation, then you just go back to the same where you were. Some think that existence is, and others that nothing is. Rare is the one who thinks neither and thus is calm. Well, it reaches a point where, again, concepts, beliefs, they are hardened substances in the mind. So they are a source of restlessness, and they disturb silence. So this is speaking about the strong beliefs that seekers have, which have helped them move to where they stand. But then they become an obstacle also. So when you reach that silence, and you need to establish on that silence, these evaluations, judgments, beliefs, they are a hindrance. They were very important to reach that silence, but now, in that silence, they disturb it. Again, not for a beginner, not for the one whose mind is still restless, who has fears, who has desires, not for that one. Because that one doesn't have silence. And if you remove these things before this, you just slide away back to where you were. So rare is the one who thinks neither and is thus calm. Calm meaning no agitation in the mind, no gross things in the mind, just calmness, not momentarily calmness. Those of dull intellect think that the Atman is pure and one without the second, but through delusion they do not know it and are unhappy as long as they live. Well, this is almost stating the obvious. Those of dull intellect who haven't yet fully purified the intellect think that the Atman is pure and one without the second, because that's what they have. They haven't had the experience of it. But they believe it, so they think it is one without the second. But through delusion, as they are still in ignorance, they do not know it, and are unhappy as they live. Yes, stating the obvious. So, yeah. So again, if we look at this verse, maybe we can take a little bit more out of it. So if you don't know the self yet, if it's still a belief, if you're still unhappy, if you haven't realized the self, this means intellect still dull. So more purification is required. And it's interesting because it is common that seekers throughout time, as they go more deeper into, spend more time into their path, they tend to try to jump stages, and they tend to put aside control of the mind, meditation, and all these things. They continue to study, but with a dull intellect. Cleansing comes first. Even without the studies, if you purify your intellect, realization of the self will be there. So the main reason, if you haven't purified, if you haven't realized the self, is purification. You haven't purified your mind enough yet.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.